Forget that. Fuck. Whew, okay. Almost there. Happy Aquarius season and many blessings. Many full moon blessings. Since we are on kind of the post vibes of the full moon in Leo, it does make me want to ask the question, or really just kind of pose the collective heart on the sensations and bringing awareness to any shifts or major shifts taking place. Have you felt the impact of the Leo moon activating in your space? You know, and what has that looked like and felt like to you? Ultimately, I think that was, what was that, a Wednesday, so a lot of times I find with Mercury, there's always these huge shifts, so I actually, at the time when I was looking at when the full moon was going to come out, I thought it was going to be in Virgo, so I was actually kind of surprised, but I mean, it makes sense that it was in Leo as well, like the energies were very close, and it actually is kind of interesting because with the portal that opened up with like Leo moon being the energy, there was a lot, it might have been this experience for a lot of us where a lot was illuminated and a lot was like activated within our energy body, but with like kind of the Virgo kind of like right behind that, kind of like that sixth house kind of drive to kick in and actually apply or do something with what's been presented is also like in the energy too. So like this full moon, I think it was like this called like a snow moon. It felt like this activation was like really kind of, it makes me think of embolic like that, stepping into like a hot spring in the middle of like the Iceland or some type of shit where you just feel that like renewal, that cold hot renewal in the spa, like in that natural spa type shit. So like on the metaphysical end, that's kind of what this moon felt like, you know. So a lot of the collective may have experienced kind of like revelations, like personal revelations about things that you've been doing the same, realizing what you could really be doing with yourself, in your personal energy or your relationships. A lot of it may relate to like lightning low, because this Aquarius season has been doing a lot of like the shakeup. So some of the shakeups has been some forced, like moving things out of hand, even if it hasn't been wanted, kind of in a sense leaving you left with only your basic tools, and you're discovering things that were before taken for granted because you didn't ever have to rely on them, and they're actually very close to you. So this full moon kind of feels like a supercharge of kind of activating those new things and bringing light to those new things. But yeah, this last live for the Aquarius season that I want to get to is going to be for fire signs. So that actually on what was it, when I was kind of in that role, yeah, Spirit definitely wanted to kind of save this energy for the last, they were kind of breaking it into 3 parts. So there's really going to be some good energy for the fire signs, because, you know, Aries, I will say Aries and Sagittarius, there was some really big shifts for you. I would really, for the Aquarius season, I really feel like the Leos were the only ones that kind of caught it the roughest with the impacts, and I think a lot of that had to deal with the having the difficulty of letting go of like letting go of the changes or the things that were like really important to you. So Leo's kind of really dealing with that, and I think it also has a lot to do with that fixed nature. But I mean, for the fire signs, like this a lot of gas and energy from Uranus has really been providing the means to kind of like get away from things that have kind of been holding you in place, and a lot of which some of this disruption for Sagittarius and Aries has been for good. Now, whether or not the energy's been being used for the best benefit, that's kind of like up to each one in their own. But just for the collective, I think that the overall energy for Aries and Sagittarius has provided a lot of opportunities in areas where there's been a lot of just stuck situations, and not really feeling like there's been really, I guess for lack of a better word, the means to kind of change the situation, you know. So really want to get cracking into this. So I forgot that I actually didn't book this message. So bookmark this message like my other one. So let's actually kind of like dive into it. We'll definitely start with Aries. So we'll be dealing with those first house vibes. So like when Aries is very interesting with the Uranus energy, because there's no real one set way to kind of pinpoint Aries with the Uranus season, because they kind of just approach it as however the situation presents itself. So Aries has a lot of interesting things going on, but what is cool is it's like during this time particular, this 2022, they're really enjoying all the things that are coming their way, but I don't necessarily know if they're using them for their best means or interests. It's kind of like you have a lot of new tools and new perspectives on how you can change your, well, I want to say is lifestyle, like elevate your lifestyle, but how you're going about actually utilizing the tools that are available to you now may be what's actually in question. So yeah, so guidance. I feel an inversion with guidance, so definitely dealing with some higher realm chakra as far as direction. So we're dealing with the crown. Yeah, we'll definitely delve into that a little bit more. Let's see. Okay, let's first go down the line because I want to get the main kind of like the main points across. So, like I said, with Aries, we're seeing higher realm activation with the higher chakras. So we're dealing kind of with the crown and the ajna, or third eye. So kind of like how we're seeing things and the direction that we're going, and how are we actually applying or utilizing the tools that are in place. I feel at this point there's kind of like this inversion. So that means that mostly overall for the collective, there's either a turnover or just a minimizing the use or a misuse of the energy that's being presented to you, that's been presented to you during this season. Okay. Leo, we're dealing with the throat here. For Leo, this isn't too surprising. There will be some inversion here. A lot of, like I said, that fixed nature is having, you're feeling like you're having a hard time expressing yourself, or just really being able to not so much literally express, but to control the outcome of the situations and the changes that are happening around you during this time. So a lot of this is kind of out of your control. So you're feeling a little powerless, and you're feeling like you may not have a place or a voice in your environment. Like I said, it did feel like Leo is kind of like catching it the hardest. And this also includes Leo placements. Because all those fixed natures, when Uranus comes in, it usually has the biggest impact on the fixed sign. So Leo definitely dealing with some issues there, but there are some opportunities for a lot of growth, because the things that are generally being taken away for Leo during this time, especially for 2022, is really because things are kind of outdated for you. Let's see, Sagittarius. Okay, oh wait, move that away. Okay, Sagittarius, we also have higher realm activity going on with the crown and intelligence. A lot of this has to do with how you're comprehending and taking in this new sensory of information. You're kind of being hit with a new, kind of like a higher light, and the light is, for lack of a better word, higher grade than what you're used to. It's kind of like, it's very sensitive. It's good for you, but you're not necessarily used to it. It's kind of like divine light, higher knowledge, usually dealing with like level revelations or epiphanies, are kind of like fall into this category. So I feel a sense that you come across something, or you burst something recently that is kind of like, whew, and you're kind of trying to figure out how to like process it in a sense. So intelligence is definitely coming in as a factor here, but we'll touch back on that when we go through the line. Definitely want to pull the divine oracle messages to coincide with that for the season. So we'll definitely start back with Aries, dealing with the guidance. Like I said, with Aries, when Aquarius season comes around with Uranus, there's been a lot of shakeups with the things going on with you. But in particular, there is sometimes a tendency to shield your identity. And I think a lot of that has to do with the first house. So the things that you have in your environment, you associate or have a great association with your identity or your id or yourself. A lot to do with your ego. Because there's been shifts in your finances and with your emotional relationships, a lot of these things tie in a lot to your security and your identity. So because you're shifting during this time, you're trying to hold those things in place. And a lot of the Aquarius season has been unexpectedly creating hiccups in those areas. But these hiccups have been because some of these things that you've held in place have been to kind of conceal or hold an image that is not necessarily serving the self that you should be reflecting during this time. That's really the best way that I can put it. A lot of this shakeup is coming because you need to correct your mistakes. The things that you have that you're trying to hold and you're fighting for to represent and lock in place are actually things that are, for lack of a better word, incorrect. They're either mistakes that you've made and that you've glazed over, or you've just built on the foundation. And because the foundation is still standing, you want everybody to look at how cool what you have built is. but without correcting those mistakes, it's always just kind of taking away from the appeal. So a lot of your scrambling, which is why we see guidance, what you see in inversion and guidance, is because there's a misuse of what's been coming to you, which is to say that when Aquarius comes around, you are either misusing the energy because you're ahead of the curve. But a lot of times when your Aquarius energy comes around, it shows up before people are ready. So if you kind of gotten the jump on it, you may already be putting things in place to kind of prepare for events and connections and he says, she says, and just keeping things airtight. But it's starting to get a little bit harder to do that. And all the time that you've been spending doing this has actually been painting an identity that's actually not conducive for you. It's kind of like creating a paper soldier or a straw house. So the reason that Uranus is actually acting in a divine way on your behalf is actually to break up these areas. It's actually in your best interest to allow these things to kind of just crumble down, because when Uranus energy comes in, it's usually torrential. So that generally means that you're not going to have a way to really contain it. So in a sense, it's really just kind of saying like the things that do start to crumble for you, you need to kind of let happen. Because they either don't serve you anymore, or it's for your own greater good, or it's for your own good that these things are happening in such a way. All right, moving on to what the fuck? Leo, right? Self-expression. So for Leo, we're dealing with self-expression, and with you, like I said, a lot of what you feel is like just being taken away from you is has a lot to do with the identity. It's not comfortable having the things that are precious to you, or the things that there's a lot of mental energy that goes into maintaining the comforts that you have around you. That's why your fifth house, you have a very creative imagination, and imagination, while it does come from the inner child, is fueled by a lot of mental focus. So the mind and the conscious mind comes a lot into play. So this usually means that the things that you've accumulated, have come at a lot of great effort and energy from the ego and the mind, and sometimes on the negative end, control, or just on the other end, just a lot of manifesting. So with self-expression coming into play, when those things that you work so hard to build and lock into place, that you want to see moving and operating a certain way, whether it's your family dynamics or the relationships, or how for you, in particular in this Aquarius season, has been how you've been holding your love and your expectations of love in place. A lot of this is a lot of clash for you, because when Venus is in Capricorn, you don't really necessarily do very well with Capricorn energy when there is like a resistance. So with Venus in Capricorn, with the shifts of trying to figure out how you want to be valued, or the things that you have that are important to you, you've been using a lot of force. And over these last, I wouldn't say month or so, you've been applying a lot of force, especially with some of these scares and just the pressures of, your job and providing for all the children in the family, or having to reconcile with family. There's a lot of pressures, and you've been wanting the few things that you actually do have to kind of just be in place. But even those things are actually starting to take shifts. But that's because a lot of these things may not actually be healthy or conducive for you, which is why the circumstances that you're in are breaking down. Some of this may be coming as a result of not having allowed yourself to expand. You've been thinking too small, or feeling too small, or you've been making others feel very small, and they've been stifling their voice. So now the karmic energy coming back is you having to accept the things that are happening during this time. It may be actually very a little challenging for you to come to terms with this, because you're so used to getting your way, accept what is dying, in a little and symbolic sense. The things that are crumbling away in your space, in your perceptions, and in your reality, the connections that are changing for you during this time, don't serve you anymore. And what it is what it is. There's not really a lot that you can do about it during this time. The only thing that you can speak on during this time is to actually make peace with the situation. A lot of this may actually be coming as a result of having left things the way they were for so long, that now you have to kind of accept. Now you kind of have to accept what is. And then it may be very challenging to do this, but what's good that's coming out of it is that even with situations that have been cemented for so long, the acceptance is the clarity for you to be able to do the reset. So a lot of this, I feel like the confirmation is from this full moon in Leo is speaking to a flush to allow for this full receiving, and that also is a reset in a sense. So this thing may seem like it's dying off, but it's actually a reset for you, because really, realistically, the situations and the connections or the energy as it relates to you was actually already dead, but you hadn't actually come to that realization because you had other things that were still erected within your space that didn't allow you to see it. Sagittarius. We're speaking on intelligence. Embrace your power. You've been being dumbed down. Like I said, you've had a lot of ability, intelligence, and the crown. Embrace your power, but you've been either allowing other responsibilities or things to bog you down. The people around you or the people that you allow yourself to confide in have not necessarily been playing that up, and you've either been waiting on some type of confirmation to encourage you to embrace your new abilities, but those things haven't been coming. A lot of the Aquarius season has been hitting you with surprises, other new responsibilities that are either pressing you to decide, hey, do you want this, or what can you do with your newfound abilities now? You're really being sat in a position to what may seem like is a seeming burden is actually a new opportunity for you to embrace your new power. But yes, is a new way for you. There's an awakening, and some type of awakening is taking place within you. I feel it in a sense within your womb, and it's somehow connecting with your higher mental self. So it's like it's supercharging your crown, supercharging your thoughts. You're most likely having visions or very, very sharp imaginations. How you're channeling this though is very unique. It is very unique. You may not actually have a word for it yet, or have actually even talk to anyone about this, but a lot of it becomes clear to you within your visions, both while you're dreaming and when you're tapping into your own special crafts and hobbies. But more recently, you're starting to embrace it more because circumstances have put you in a situation where you either don't have much of a choice but to really spend time delving into it, or this newfound ability that has awakened within you has come as a result of the things that's been transpiring for you lately. Okay, that's fine. We're good. Okay, so definitely want to pull a channel message for starting with Aries. We'll be using the Fountain deck, and kind of just really showing what this kind of direction is. So we have guidance and correcting mistakes. So like I said, with Aries, it has a lot to do with a breakdown in how the identity is changing for you. So we're kind of go back over that. Much love, many blessings. Hope the full moon has received you well and activated you in a way that is for your best interest and loving intent. Okay, so for Aries, pulling channel message, a lot of movement. A lot of that can actually be thanked for Uranus, because Uranus is very rapid and Aries kind of just utilizes what's available. Okay, so for Aries, like I said, we have the King of Swords. I was already feeling just with kind of what came up, and I kind of like to kind of go back over all the kind of connecting messages for Aries. In the higher realm chakras, we have the crown, which is the guidance, but there was an inversion. So that already tells me that kind of collectively for Aries that there's this jumping ahead to kind of get the advantage or gain the lead, to make use of a tool or the energy before somebody else has the drop on the situation. A lot of this energy is coming from the need to protect their identity and to make the best use for self for the things going on. But in a sense, there's a need to correct their mistakes. So a lot of these things, like I said, with Uranus energy, when we get that lightning, that disruption, and that shakeup, it's usually for a reason, because it's out of our control. So we usually have to treat it might as well treat it like a force of nature, so to speak. So a lot of what's happening for Aries is this shift and change within their structures that affect their identity and the things that they have around them within their personal space. so that they can see who they really are. They have a lot of things that they've accumulated and erected that they're fighting really hard, King of Swords, to get people to see them in a certain light. This has a lot to do with the image and how they want to be seen, but because guidance is inverted, this has a lot to do with having built a foundation on a continued false or corrupted direction. And honestly, it doesn't matter how much money or energy goes into it, because the foundations are corrupted, it's eventually going to crumble. In this instance, it essentially means that the truth has to come out, or the light of how you need to be seen has to come to the forefront. What I will say is about the Aquarius energy is it has given Aquarius the ability to, has given Aries the ability to kind of, I want to say, retreat in a sense, because the detached energy that comes from Aquarius Sun has allowed them to take advantage of opportunities they wouldn't normally even see themselves doing. But with their Mars kind of amplification, it seems like there's some quick shifts. You might not even hear about some of the things that they've taken advantage of, especially because it's allowing them to kind of bury the hatchet, or just kind of bury the situation further away from seeing the light of day. Which you see so much masculine energy. I'm seeing the king, I'm seeing a lot of masculine energy, a very set mindset. Someone's been kind of fighting against change for a very long time. And when we're very set with our happenings, you may be seeing a lot of the Aries doing even more reckless shit, because it's like, if you tell me no, I'm going to show you that I can. And it's like, but you can't. But they're going to show you that you can. And it's just like, it's kind of crazy, but I'm going to delve into that a little bit more. I actually want to pull from the Hoodoo Tarot to really expand on that, the King of Swords for Aries. So just to kind of elaborate too and bring this energy into shape, Aries, we're dealing with like the cardinal first house. So we're dealing with self, and self has a lot to do with literal self. But also has a lot to do with identity and assertion, because self is known by how it puts itself out into the world. So it's known through, the collective self, when we come out of the collective, is known through identity. So it's the individuality. It's the true essence of individuality. So that's why on lower vibrational end, when Aries are in low vibration, they're kind of self-centered, and they only are concerned about doing what they think is best. Or even when they try to fix things, they kind of fix it because they think that this is the best way that it should be. But a lot of it comes from the perception of self, because they rule the head, they rule the higher self. So it is the Aries head. So we're dealing with a lot of mental energy, a lot of stimulation within the head. So seeing guidance and seeing the crown also shows that the direction, a lot of this stuff is playing into the directions that they're choosing to go during this time. So this is also confirmation with King of Swords being in here, that a lot of the Aries, if they're kind of like playing this role of like, they don't know what's going on, they're actually most likely at the helm of the orchestrated things that are transpiring in their place. But one thing I will say is they may not know what the intended outcome is going to be, because the thing about navigating Uranus energy is when you're kind of navigating through a storm, you're kind of like driving through a fog. So you may have an intended trajectory, but you really don't know where you're going to end up, or if you're going to end up at that intended mark when you come out of the turbulence. A lot of times when those situations are going on, you don't really make drastic moves. You kind of let yourself guide out and then decide how you're going to move. But Mars energy can be a little impatient. So some of the moves may have been based off of what things look like on first glance. Five of Coins, Two of Sticks, and yeah. So I feel in Miss Ida, so definitely feeling like the High Priestess. So let's definitely go through it. So we have Five of Coins, so definitely feeling an energy of just like a halfway point. We have reached the state where you put the energy in, but you're not quite sure why you're receiving the same results. It's almost as if someone's going in behind your work and kind of like blowing it down as you build it. Like literally every time you stack it up, they're just kind of like going in and blowing down the work. So you kind of feel in a sense that it doesn't matter what you do, you're still being kind of met with the same results. Miss Ida being here, the High Priestess, is definitely reflecting on personal desires or personal pleasures, something very innate that you've been kind of holding or wanting to. Collectively, I feel a sense you're either trying to suppress it or you're trying to find a way to cultivate it in a way that is hidden, or you're trying to overall find a way to come to terms with it. Because you keep coming back to it, which is why it's a 5 of coin, and 2 of sticks in the energy, you kind of feel complacent, or it's the same either way. And in much the same way, I feel this has a lot to do with how you've been thinking or coming across the situation, because you haven't actually addressed or faced the situation. You always end up being met with this wanting the same thing, and you're still left dependent on someone or something else to achieve it. And even though you're manipulating the situation to receive it, you still ultimately end up being a slave to the situation. Miss Ida being here also shows the confirmation that you're not quite seeing the no, it's not. No, it's really, you're not actually revealing the truth of the situation. So because of that, all the energy that you're receiving, you're trying to get the drop and guide the narrative. You're trying to guide the narrative of the energy, and this Aquarius energy has been coming every which way, and you've been trying to do kind of a juggling act to control the narratives of the energy, using this energy to control the narrative to shape your image. On a higher vibrational end, I will say that Aries that have been doing the purge and been doing the work on themselves have lost many things that they don't really need anymore and have been left with kind of the bare bones. Some of the structural changes have been challenging and what's the word I'm looking for? Turbulent. But I feel that the pressure is bringing out a resilience. And you're being left with just kind of the meat of what it is that you really need. Though some of those challenges may be tough, the confirmation 2 of sticks, even though it may seem like you've lost a lot, you actually still have pretty much the same of what you were left with. And with the strong mind, you actually have the means to actually build and forge new. But you have to accept that this is a reset for where you are during this time. I do hope that this message is resonating for you, Aries. Ultimately, what I ultimately get from Spirit about what the Aquarius wisdom is providing for you, and kind of confirming that with the full moon in Leo, is that everything that has been you've been working towards and fighting towards to kind of shape for yourself, the one thing that you do and should bring mindfulness and awareness to is that what is it that you really want to be represented as, and why are you fighting so hard for the image that you're trying to maintain? Is it really representative of your authentic self? Because we should all fight for our image. But is this image representative of your authentic self? That's the most important thing to actually keep in mind. Let this message resonate with you, and as you prepare for the next season, as you move into Pisces season, you'll be revisiting a lot of things, because Pisces season is very fun because it always feels like a beginning and an ending. So I think it'll definitely be a great opportunity to still make use of this energy and to see what's kind of what you're left with, so that you, as you move into the Pisces season, and see what you can take advantage for yourself. Decide who it is that you want to be. Ashe. Okay, moving on to Leo. So for Leo, let's pick back up, and we have the messages, feeling the activations within the throat chakra. So we're dealing with the self-expression. There's definitely an inversion there. I'm feeling a sense of an inversion, and a lot of that has to deal with the fixed sign. A lot of that has to deal with the sudden disruptive changes that are brought by Uranus that are a little bit uncomfortable for Leo, and the expectations and liking the things and their comfort to be consistent. They like consistency in their comfort, and Uranus doesn't really bring that. So definitely have self-expression and accept what is dying, which is, I feel, is a very almost like clear direct message from Spirit about accepting the changes that are taking place in your environment, and not necessarily trying to fight against what is going on during this time. Okay, King of Cups. So there's a lot of masculine energies taking place. And for you, Leo, I can definitely understand. It's a lot of push, a lot of. This has been like this for a long time. You're used to things being this way. You didn't ever expect them to change. You never even thought that any of your circumstances would change. You created this, and it's been very secure for you. So you are really in an uproar about everything that has been taking place. This is very important that you find a healthy way to release this energy and to channel this energy in a way that's going to allow you to breathe, going to allow you to accept what is happening within your reality. I know this is very difficult for you, but this change that's happening for you is because you are not allowed to exist the way you used to exist anymore. You can take that however it is that you want, but you're not allowed to exist the way you were existing anymore. You're not allowed to think the way you used to think anymore. You're not allowed to feel and project the way you used to project anymore. You have to do different. You have to be different. And that's the bottom line. There's just more during this time. It's something about you not having the luxury to move the way you've been moving energetically and physically. Ten of Knives, yes. Bishop, Hierophant, Mother of Knives. So yeah, it's a lot of mental projection, a lot of turnovers. I feel a lot of inversions in this as well. So Ten of Knives. I don't necessarily feel that the energy that's been leading up to this point has been being used for the best interest. There's been too much consideration of other people who don't matter. No, there's an inversion. There's been no consideration of people who should matter, and there's a lack of love in the situation. So now that's what the King of Cups is. Now there's an uproar within yourself because there's been too long of an inconsideration of emotions for others. Somebody has not been receiving or being considered and has been being downplayed. So the things that have been established have been off the energy of other people who have not been appreciated in some way, shape, or form. The Bishop, is dealing with the Hierophant. So somebody's been being demanded to be within a role and structure, and it's been required that they be in this role. This is why it's the Hierophant. So somebody's been doing something that is literally considered necessary for the group, but isn't being appreciated, and is going outside of what is normally structured. Most likely it's been you that's been taking advantage of the structure and not actually been putting back in, which is why we see the Mother of Knives as well. So we have a lot of personal energy investment. So I feel in a sense a heart entitlement. There's been a corruption or taking advantage of the love that's been available to you. So now during this time, the things that are falling and crumbling down is coming as a result of hardship. And when hardship happens, you start to see people's true feelings in real colors. And when you have not been giving out the necessary amount of love or appreciation within your relationships, it's starting to show. When things were comfortable, it was easy to brush past those things, brush past those inconsistencies, brush past that disrespect, brush past that lack of appreciation. But now truth is very apparent in hardship. And there's a lot of hardship, and unfortunately it feels like you don't really have a voice. I would say that for the Aquarius season, one of the most important things that you can do is with the things that are crumbling away, ask yourself how you can give the seed of gentleness, give the seed of love to people in situations where you either feel that you haven't been. A lot of times when you get into a survival state, Leo, you have a tendency to think that it's time to kind of take more, tighten up more, and you get more controlling. And with all the shakeups, you've been being very erratic and very unreasonable about your movement. And it hasn't really been fair to the people around who are actually still around. It's actually kind of shocking that some of these people are still around. But you essentially just have to do better. For my on the higher realm end. For the things that are kind of dying away for you Leos that have been feeling like they're really doing your best to kind of stay within your power. Finding that way to kind of keep your light high, especially in the winter season when, we've moved through and not Shalheim, but you'll move through that, like that low point when the sun has really just been to a point and you haven't really been seeing a lot of light. I know it's been really challenging for you, and just finding that inner light and actually standing on that has actually meant a lot for your growth, because it's been very challenging. You had to really kind of hone in and really keep your mental mind focused. So for you during this time, this is really a point, or just a sign of just letting you know that that lowest point is actually kind of done, and that reset is actually building for you to make forward steps. And a lot of energy that's taking place for you during this time is allowing you to know that accept what's dying is actually a good confirmation for you, because nothing else is actually going on and you can actually make forward steps. The dying is a confirmation of the new beginnings, and now that everything from this point you actually can put energy into, will be built on solid ground. So that's actually a really solid confirmation for you, and I hope that you're actually able to embrace that in a powerful way. I want to move on to Sagittarius. For Sagittarius, we had intelligence, so we're dealing with some higher realm energy here, dealing with the crown, faith in our connection to the collective, and embracing power. So in a very strong way for you, Sagittarius, there's definitely a confirmation that there's been a new understanding that's been coming from a space that's really been beyond your reality, or just been connected to relating to getting outside of your safety zone, getting outside of your head is what I really want to say. You are the sign of the seer, so it's very interesting that, there's higher chakra activation, a lot of vividness, ninth house vibes. So yeah, already kind of in the head. So there's really a lot of stimulation going on. You may be seeing things a lot more clearly than you ever had in a while now. Some of this is bringing the ability to heal some old wounds. You always get some of that energy with the with some Sagittarius activation there, so that's definitely a good sign. Yeah, a lot of seated opportunities, healing. Seven of coins, you're definitely feeling the energy of taking opportunity. You feel like if you put the energy in or make the forward movement, you finally feel like it'll actually mean something. You've probably been feeling like through the Aquarius season that your efforts are meaning something now. Whereas before, you didn't know if it was a gamble. At best, it was probably a gamble. Now you actually have been feeling in your spirit, even if you haven't actually made the move, that your efforts will actually kind of pay off, or that something will be given back on the return. You feel like the time is now. You feel like the time to mentally project into the situation or apply what's been coming to you is worth doing now. Sagittarius, for you, the change is actually kind of a good flow for you, because you needed to mix up. You were getting a little stagnant. I think it was Sagittarius, like mutable fire. So you needed to mix up. You've been kind of bogged down or locked down. Something has had you, a responsibility has had you committed and taken up a lot of your energy. Whether it's work or just a new project or commitment or something that you had to give a lot of your time and energy to. And after a while, because you had no choice with it, it was kind of like a ball and chain for you. You may have actually had a lot of love for it, or were just committed to it, whether or not or otherwise. But the point is, you had no choice in whether or not you wanted to do it. And your energy is freed up, or started to free up in the Aquarius season. And now you have this freedom of mental movement. You may physically be still committed to whatever has transpired, but you have more mental movement. And this is where you're starting to thrive. That's very interesting. Okay, five of swords, 3 of sticks, 5 of coins. This is interesting. Okay, so okay. 5 of swords. So in a sense, you've been waiting. There's been some delicious things that you've been waiting, but they're a little spicy. It's very choice information. It's very choice things, and You may actually be feeling good enough to actually put it out there. Three of Sticks. It's not necessarily the most attractive thing, but it's attractive for the situation. Most likely it's something that needs to be said, which is why we have the pop of coins. It's very meaty and it's very choice, and will most likely put you in the driver's seat. I feel a very masculine energy, so most likely it's someone that has been holding the means to generating worth and energy of wealth or a sense of well-being, but they haven't necessarily been giving. They've been providing, but they haven't necessarily been putting out filling the space with the essence. So you haven't necessarily been feeling the emotional love. In a sense, since I've been talking about the opportunity for emotional healing, there's a part of you that now feels more comfortable to express these aspects of yourself, or has discovered what that pain and that trauma has been doing to you, and you're now working to kind of turn that over, which is why we see the Seven of Coins, because you're now actually putting in the energy to do something about it. You know that you need to embrace your power, and you're actually feeling invigorated. You're feeling invigorated by even considering taking this direction with yourself, whether it's to speak up for yourself or to actually just go out there and actually do what it is that you feel is within your pleasure activism and pleasure awareness within your energy body. Because you've been feeling this way, Five of Swords, for a while, emotionally you haven't been able to express it. And a lot of times, Five of Swords, we are having issues with communication or expression, or even when you've been saying it clearly, the person that is receiving hasn't been very receptive to interpreting the correct way. Because a lot of times we don't really hear what's being heard. We hear what we think the person means. So in much the same way, I feel like you've been feeling like even if you've been saying it clearly, it hasn't been being heard. Whether it's due to the obligations or other commitments or what's been being provided through the sticks. So we're feeling the feelings to draw in the energy, but it hasn't necessarily, we're kind of in the sense of waiting. You have been feeling like you've been trying to manifest something, but it has not necessarily been coming to you. So you haven't really known what the purpose has been. And you've been feeling like there's really been a big block, whether within the masculine energy. Most likely the masculine energy is a physical masculine energy that is kind of deciding the decisions, or your own personal masculine energy is so suppressed that you don't really feel like you have a voice to express your masculine energy, and your masculine energy is projected and kind of puppeteered through the people and the situations around you within your dynamic. Embracing your power is also finding you the space to allow you to really, I want to say, create your own identity. So as this relates to the Aquarius season, there's been a lot of shifts and shakeups in what the normal dynamic of your role has been, because you've been in the background and in a supportive role. So what's transpiring is kind of the energy of shifts and movements for essentially the normal masculine energy that's in that role has not necessarily either been able to come to the call, and some different arrangements are now in the work. So you've had to step up and do things in a way that has provided or fulfilled that role, or just created harmony within the situations. Because of that, you're seeing your capabilities and you're wanting to find ways to create more of that individuality and new direction and new ritual is really what I want to say. You want to break from the old ritual. You want to do something new entirely. And this is your opportunity to kind of put in shape a new way. A new path has already been opened within the Aquarius season for you. And now is the time for you to really embrace it. You've been thinking on this for a while. The energy's been sitting with you for a while, and the Aquarius season has been really giving you some serious epiphanies. So it's time to really just bring that energy forward, whether it needs to be said or just written down, whether it needs to be expressed to someone to make the changes or to just create the contract. It's important for you to create that new contract, because now that we're really starting to wrap up and get near the end of the Aquarius season, it's going to be time for you to solidify some things and go back to some things as we go to get ready for the Pisces season. You can finally bring those beginnings and endings into completion and kind of write that new contract and set a new tone for yourself. I hope this is resonating with you, Sagittarius, because this Aquarius season has opened up some very seated and choice blessings for you. And I hope that you are actually allowing those things to kind of just really heal you and kind of just embrace that Chiron archetype and that wounded healer, and actually embrace the new power of the things that were kind of really holding you in place and keeping you, making you feel like you were in a prison within your power, and these old wounds and traumas, and hopefully are allowing you to really see that they don't have to hold you where you are, and just really embrace your new abilities. Hope this is resonating with you. The Aquarius season definitely has a lot of impact on all the signs, and the fire signs have definitely been feeling some heated winds of change. Definitely sending a lot of love to Leo, and hoping that they're receiving their clarity. All signs across the board, but definitely for my fire signs, I'm hoping that you're embracing this change of energy and the higher vibrational shifts that are activating within these resets that are taking place within your energy field. Definitely a lot of energy within this fire sign. Now I actually kind of see why I didn't just wrap this up in the last two element run when I did the last live. So I'm actually glad I did this fire sign one by itself. The next part that I'm going to do in the wrap up is I'm going to just do kind of the chakra pathway breakdowns. I'll be posting on my YouTube. We got some other good things in store for you as well, but I'll be posting these recaps and just kind of posting like all the tarot decks used. Definitely let's wrap this up. Full moon message for the Leo season. Definitely channeling many blessings. Hope you were able to get those rituals in and really just get those personal petitions in for your own growth and activation. It's really some good energy that was in this full moon, and this week is really set up to be to provide you with all the things that you have been wanting for yourself, because a lot of the energy that led up to kind of this full moon when we were in this Aquarius season, we were bringing good things to us and we were starting to receive these good things, but we weren't necessarily enjoying them. And a lot of that, I believe, when I think on it, has a lot to do with that detached nature. But we weren't enjoying them because we were receiving the things before we were able to enjoy them, because we hadn't really cleaned up other situations going on. We received these tools and devices, but we realized that our situations still emotionally were not aligned. So that's really what we're also going to be experiencing as well. And now that we have these things, we can still go back and align our situations in an easier way because we have these new tools now. So I hope this message resonates with you. And if you know anyone that needs to hear this message and it resonates with them, definitely share and send this message to them. Drop a comment, let me know how this is touching you and how it's shaping up in your own personal space. Much love, many blessings, and Ashe.